Hi, everyone. Welcome to the How Are You Healing podcast. I'm Elise Webster, and I will be your host. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the How Are You Healing podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me who is Andrea Wieser, who has been my coach, and I've worked with her for some months now, and the work we've done together, for me, has been transformational. It was the catalyst of starting a lot of changes that I made in my life, breaking a lot of patterns, and being very conscious about the life and the story that I wanted to create about myself. And that's been hard work, but I'm really, really pleased that you're here today. And I know that this is probably going to be one of the talks where I have to be the most vulnerable because this work has been so transformative in my life. So welcome to How Are You Healing?
Thank you so much, Elise. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you and have this conversation together.
So you trained with Amara Samatha with her, her philosophy, her tool called InnerGuidance.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to me or explain to people that are listening? Because I've done it and I still have a hard time really explaining to people what it is, what it does, how it helps, sort of depending on the day or what I'm going through, how it's helping me that day. That's how I explain it. So it's an all-encompassing technique, but how do you describe InnerGuidance and the work that you do?
How do you describe the undescribable, right? I mean, it goes so deep. It goes on so many levels. Like for yourself, you're now referring to me that work has had a big impact on your life. And for me, is the first time I met with Amara Samatha. Amara is the founder of the InnerGuidance Institute, which she set up a few years ago. And she's offering InnerGuidance journey work and InnerGuidance coaching as well. So when I moved to Bali about almost 3 years ago, my intention was really to learn from her. That was one of the intentions I had, beside everything else which was going on in my life. And of course, I feel that our teachers come into our lives when we need them most and when we are ready. Yes. And that's what has happened for me with Amara. And what is InnerGuidance? There is different levels to it. There is InnerGuidance coaching, I would say, which we do on a coaching level.
So one-to-one.
One-to-one, which can be online, on Zoom, in person. And then there is the InnerGuidance journey work, where you basically bring the coaching to the mat. So what does that mean? Bringing it to the mat means making it a full body experience.
I love this. My first encounter with InnerGuidance was at the yoga barn in Ubud, a year ago now, maybe even more now. And I was invited by a friend who had spoken really highly of Amara, of the work she did. And I was at a phase where I was saying yes to everything. I came to Bali feeling really excited and optimistic about this move and this new experience. And I also was very aware that I was carrying baggage and stories and habits and limiting beliefs. And I had no idea how to break free of them. And I was also very aware that I had coping strategies for things that felt very overwhelming to me. And the traditional tools that I had been given just weren't enough for what I wanted to have done. I really wanted to address it, but I didn't know where to start. And Bali is a beautiful place because there's so much conversation about healing and it's commonplace. You drop your kids off at school and somebody's talking about a silent retreat they did. You go to a dinner party and somebody else is talking about some body work or some, physical treatment they've had. It's everywhere. The dialogue is everywhere. And I was so lit up by this. So I was at a phase where I was saying yes to pretty much anything. Anything I got invited to, I was willing to try. So I came to the yoga barn, and Amara and Byron was facilitating. And I laid on my mat, and Amara played some music and spoke some words. And I had this multi-level sensory experience. And I cannot remember what the topic was. She narrates through a little bit, and I don't totally remember, but I remember feeling like I was addressing things on a body level, on an energetic level, on a mind level, on a spiritual level, all at once. It felt like I could address all of those planes of existing in one experience. That's what the mat work felt like to me. And I woke up, I felt high as a kite, first of all, like just so joyful. And not every mat experience has been joy, but my first one was. And I remember thinking, this is going to help me. This is really going to help me. And that's when I engaged with her to find about the coaching. And that's when I started to work with you. So that mat work started it, but then the coaching for me brought in the finer tuning, because I left the mat work thinking, wow, like I feel like I've just ripped something open with me, and I've got to have someone to help me wade through this, all that this brings up.
Yes, I think you have described it beautifully because when we really want to heal, we need to heal on all levels.
Yes.
And as you said, it's the physical body, it's the emotional, it's energetic, it's the spiritual. And then there comes this, it's on the kinesthetic, and there comes this wisdom which our body carries.
Yes.
And our body knows exactly what we do. And this is actually also what InnerGuidance is about. So we're connecting because whatever we need to know is inside of us.
Yes.
So we just need to know how to access it.
Yes.
So it doesn't, even though you bring in spirituality, right? It's not that you are worshipping someone, a guru or a god. It's literally whatever we need to know is already there, and it's already inside of us. And how can we access that? And then when you manage to get through all these layers, the emotional, the physical, the mind, the spiritual level, that's when you actually can heal on a cellular level. And that's when it becomes sustainable. That's when it really, you heal on all layers. So I know if you're just working on the mental level for something, you realize your patterns, you understand, oh, I keep doing this. Why am I doing this?
Yes.
And you're, okay, I have to stop that. And then you work on that level, stopping it. It's only one level.
It's only one level.
And when you are on this mat, and what happens, people often ask, what happens? It's when your inner intelligence is kicking in and your body knows exactly how to move, because all these energies are stored somewhere. These emotions are stored somewhere in your body. And then when you break these patterns, there's this renegotiation which is happening.
Yes.
Which then, so your body might start to move, and you wonder, whoa, what is my arm doing? What are my legs doing?
My body has moved.
Why is my head shaking? So there's a new negotiation which is happening inside of us. And that's how we can break these old patterns. And often these patterns, they're made very early in our lives. Some in early childhood, some, we keep going on, taking on new patterns as we live, but many of them, and the ones which are really more difficult to access. And then you have even the ones which happen before you're even vocal as a child.
I was just talking with someone about that yesterday. So the sub-3 age, when we just accept the world, you're just experiencing the world. You were just in it. You absorbing everything. You're like a sponge to the world. And so many of our imprinted belief systems happen in that. I thought it was 0 to 7. I mean, as a mother, it makes me a little bit nervous. I will say that, because I just think, gosh, all of my kids are over 3. I hope I did a good job, because I can't go back and redo it. And I wish in some ways that I had done some of this work before I had become a mother.
Yeah. That was one of someone asked me, what would you do differently today?
Yeah.
When you had children or before you had kids? And my answer was, I would make sure that I had healed or worked on my inner child.
Yeah.
Because these reactions which we have when we are parenting, right? Which sometimes we feel very strong about them. We feel strong about when our children make a mistake, or we think it's a mistake, or they behave a certain way, which we feel it's not the right way. So each time when these things happen, you actually go back to your experience as a child. And if we don't reparent our inner child, we are not able to overcome these reactions, because we were taught not to feel our emotions. We were told to be quiet, to sit down, put in the corner, right? But actually, the child has to learn to move themselves through the emotions. And that's what also we are doing when we're doing the inner guidance journeys. We are moving through these emotions which we carry in our bodies, which we don't allow ourselves to feel. And if we don't allow ourselves to feel them, they get stuck. And then over a certain period of time, we wonder why we are getting sick. Why are we having all these diseases, which often don't have an explanation, right? So
you've said a lot of interesting things, sir. One, I love in it, maybe I love it because it aligns with my belief system, that when we tap into the divine that is within each of us, because that divine spirit lives within all of us, we don't necessarily have to look outwards for answers. We can access that within inside ourselves. And I love that. I love the idea that we are sacred beings, and to treat our bodies and our minds in a way with reverence, with honor, and to trust that we have the answers within us. And that is very empowering. The methodology, the inner guidance, the work is deeply empowering, but it takes a great deal of honesty. And that's something I've learned in this process, that to really uncover the source of this, you have to be really honest with yourself. And it's hard. This is not easy work to do. That is hard.
It is really, really hard. And sometimes we see things and we're, gosh, really, have I been doing this?
Yes.
And, if we would listen more to our bodies, the body wouldn't need to pull these emergency brakes, which sometimes does. And then we get ill, or we get sick, or something happens in our life to wake us up to, oh gosh, who am I? What I'm doing to myself, what I'm doing to my body. I just have to listen more carefully, and tuning in and taking this time and tuning into yourself. And what do I really, really need today? And
you were quite sick, weren't you?
Yeah.
Tell me, I'm originally from southeastern Connecticut. So I think if anybody from my home area is listening to this, which I hope you are, we're very familiar with Lyme disease, because Lyme, Connecticut is in that area of the world. So pets get Lyme, kids get Lyme, but you got Lyme disease, and it it really manifested in your body, didn't it? It took root, and it's been a journey to cope with and get rid of. Can you tell me about how you healed yourself from that?
Yeah. It was really a journey. I mean, that's the right word to use on all different kind of levels. I just suddenly, I had no idea what was wrong with me. I just started having all these funny, different kind of symptoms.
And you were living where at the time?
I was living in Singapore at that time, but I know now that I got bitten on a holiday back in Switzerland.
Okay.
So I had a tick bite there, and I'd been away for too long. I was told once, you have to be mindful of tick bites. You can get really sick. But that had been so far away in my mind. So it was just, I just brushed it away, and I was busy with my daily routine, and I was just making sure I could get done what I had to get done. And I went back to Singapore, where I was working at that time, full time, two small children. And suddenly
in finance, right?
Yeah, in banking. Yeah, I was a private banker. I was a partner in a small independent asset manager firm. So totally different to what I'm doing today. And I had just suddenly my body was giving all these kind of different funny symptoms. And I was, gosh, what's wrong? What's going on? My hands started to tingle, and I was, too much on my BlackBerry, I have to use my BlackBerry less, right?
Okay, so we know approximately what year this was.
Your mind always comes up with reasoning, right?
Yeah.
But then, hold on, it went to my toes. So that cannot be the BlackBerry, right?
Well, you're typing at night.
And then it went to my heart, So my heart I started to get these heart palpitations. I got intolerant to a lot of food. And it also went into my brain. So my logic's thinking, a lot of things which suddenly I was like, oh my God, I mean, I was a banker, right? And then I was on this trip. I will never forget. I was with a friend, and it was a trip from Java. We did Java and Bali, and we were on the ferry to Bali, and she asked me, how shall we split the tip between our driver and the guide? And she gave me her whole reasoning to it. And I know her very, very well, and I trust her. I couldn't follow. I couldn't follow her simple reasoning. She gave me how to split the tip between the guide and the driver. And I was just, okay, so something is seriously wrong.
Wow.
And I have felt it as well, of course, in my work environment. There were just conversations I couldn't follow anymore. My brain was literally, I felt like I had Alzheimer. I couldn't remember when I started a sentence. I couldn't remember what the person before of me was saying. So it got really scary.
And at the same time, you're having joint pain.
I had joint pains. I had burning sensations in my body. And some of them really freaked me out, especially when they were traveling up toward my heart, right? And I was like, gosh, what's happening when they go to my heart? So it affected my total physical body.
Yeah.
So that was level 1. So my whole physical body was affected. But then as well, so I did several 2 hospitalizations. We were trying to find out what was happening. Everything came back normal. And I remember it was a Wednesday night, and I was in hospital, and I was invited Saturday night for a dinner at a friend's house. And I knew her son, who was just about graduating, was struggling with something. And I texted her, I'm sorry, I think I can't make it for dinner on Saturday. She said, why, what's wrong? And I said, I wish I would. I'm in this hospital, and we're trying to figure it out. And I gave her some symptoms, and she said, hold on, I'm going to be with you at lunchtime.
Wow.
And she came in, and she listened to me, and she said, you have to test for Lyme disease.
And what did she do? She's not medical.
But her son had a positive test on Lyme disease, but I didn't know that. I didn't know what he had. And they also were back in Switzerland for holidays.
Okay.
And she said, and the other thing she told me was, no matter if it comes back negative, keep testing.
I've understood that. It's hard to diagnose sometimes.
And I knew in Singapore, obviously, it's not something which is common there. And so in the evening, she texted me, she said, my son wants to talk to you. Do you want to have a call?
How old was this child?
So he was at that time. So he was graduating from high school. So, and he had to sit down for his exams, facing and going through all this stuff as well.
Wow.
And I knew he had struggles to walk. He was very exhausted, but I didn't have the whole scale of information of what he was struggling with. So we had this chat and I could just tick all the boxes. And then he told me one more thing. He said, you have to read that book from Tommy Hilfiger's daughter. She wrote that book about her journey of Lyme disease. And
Allie Hilfiger.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did. And as well, I was reading that book and I just knew, okay, that's what I have and I have to keep testing.
And did it come up positive the first time, or did you have to?
No, it came back negative twice. And then that's the whole mental thing which is kicking in, because you start doubting yourself.
Yes.
Because everyone is telling you there's nothing. The doctors is there. When I asked the doctors,
were you told it was emotional or stress and anxiety?
Totally I was. And when I asked the infectious disease specialist to test me for Lyme, he was like, okay, I can test you any if you want, but it's not Lyme. And it came back negative. And he was, you see, I think you just should take 2 or 3 months of antidepressivas and you will be fine.
Wow.
But I knew, I mean, of course, he had in front of him a very anxious person.
Yes.
That's what he saw.
Yes. Which was probably true at that time.
Because
also.
I was very anxious, because I've been trying to find out what's wrong with me.
Yes.
Right? I just deep inside myself, I knew there is something wrong.
Yes. And that was more than emotional.
That was more. Yeah, I knew it was more. And, you know, when people say this is all in your head, yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Because we are so powerful.
Yes.
And they were right in some points and they were wrong, and they were not right in others. Because our mind is really, really, really powerful. And sometimes we hurt ourselves on a subconscious level. And that is the body who's actually telling you, hey, you need to stop.
Yes. So it's both.
And so then we are manifesting these diseases to make us stop from what we are doing. And but it's not that someone, you know, is making up stories in their head or they're faking. I would say 95%, they're not faking their symptoms, and they're not faking what they're feeling.
Right.
But they're generating it in another level, which we don't understand. And today I do have this understanding. And that's where, yes, some call it placebo effect, some call it. So it's really, really important to work on the mind, but also on the subconscious. So when you find out what is really, really, really wrong. And for myself, so the healing journey then, of course, and there are things where Western medicine is perfect and we need it.
Yes.
For me, and that situation, it didn't help because my gut was already so messed up. So the antibiotics made it even worse.
Okay.
And it was already so much in my system that I would have needed to take it for a long term. And then those bacteria, they build cysts around themselves. So they protect themselves, and actually the antibiotics cannot get through. You stop the antibiotics, and the pathogens are coming out again.
So you got the positive result from Lyme.
I did at a German. Yes,
yeah.
yes. And finally, people started to
take it seriously.
Yes. And I knew, and I deep inside myself, I knew there is more to it. And the same way, I actually knew where I had to go. So there was a time I was really trying everything.
Yeah.
I was trying.
So after you got the diagnosis, you started trying everything.
Yeah, or before even that, you know.
And you rejected the antibiotics? You didn't want that?
No, I took them.
Okay.
I took them for 2 weeks.
Okay.
They gave me 2 weeks, but it made everything worse.
Okay, so your symptoms were exacerbated.
And my gut just got worse. I was losing weight. At one point, I was 39 kg, and I was calling my nutritionist, how can I stop losing weight?
Wow.
You know, and
so it was breaking down. My body was just
breaking down. Totally. Yeah. So I needed to find other means of healing, more
Wow.
holistic. And
No, I never heard that. This whole
yeah, and then I did
story.
the traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine was a big turnaround for myself. And then that's
Okay.
where my yoga journey was coming in.
So the Ayurvedic helped.
Ayurvedic helped me, yes. And then I did my yoga teacher training with an Ayurvedic doctor and center in Singapore.
If you would be so kind as to explain Ayurvedic to anyone at home who's listening who might not be familiar with.
Ayurvedic, yeah. Ayurvedic goes back to the same teachings in Sanskrit, like yoga.
Okay.
So it works also on the different levels of your body, because the belief system is the same, that it's not just the physical body. It's also like the emotional and the spiritual. So it's body, mind, and spirit. So Ayurvedic goes back on that same. And then it works with different body types.
Yes, the different doshas.
The different doshas, right? And because everybody has a different constitution. And I think thanks to COVID, people started to understand that, because everyone is reacting differently to the same illness,
Yes.
right? And it's like, for myself, when they told me, oh, chronic Lyme disease doesn't exist, you take 1 month of antibiotic and you're fine.
Yeah.
And now we see that with COVID, oh no, some people really have long-term effects,
Yeah.
right? Because
They can't all be the same. We're not the same.
we are not the same. Our immune system is different. Our emotional situation is different. Our stress level is different. So everyone deals with it differently. So we really need to go back and put ourselves into balance. And when we are in balance, that's then from which point you can start.
And the Ayurvedic
heal.
deals with a lot of it has to do with diet
Yeah.
and different kinds of treatment, depending on your dosha. I think there's 3, right?
Yeah.
And you're one of 3, and then one of those 3 is also out of imbalance.
And you're a combination of these doshas.
So you have specific, everything, isn't it? Like you eat this kind of food, you eat at temperature, food families that you're allowed to eat.
Yes, exactly. So that was one
specific
aspect
treatments, massages,
detoxing, and especially detoxing.
Okay.
So that really taught me staying away from the toxins. What is my body able to digest? What is my body not able to digest? I can have it, I can eat it. But if I keep eating the wrong thing, I'm just piling up, right? And at one point, my glass is full again.
Did you become aware that your body was more sensitive than you were allowing it to be?
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
I would imagine also, like, you're working in banking, you've got small kids.
Yeah,
it's full on. There's not a lot of time or patience to, have a sensitive system. So
yeah, you just shut everything down, and you just go on autopilot, and that's what I was on. So I was on this autopilot, just getting things done and making sure my kids were fine, my clients were fine, my husband was fine, and then I came at the end, right? And at one point, this system breaks down.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
And you're susceptible, because one person could get bit by a Lyme tick and not get sick.
Yeah.
And another person could get bit. And I don't know if you agree, but like if your body, mind is out of balance, you're more susceptible to getting that illness, which I think is that mind body. When you say it's in your mind, it's not necessarily existing only in your mind, it's existing in your body, but there is that connection.
Yeah.
So when you came out of the Ayurvedic, you were starting to feel better.
I was starting to feel better. Of course, I was working on my nutrition. I was starting to do yoga. I was starting to meditate. So I learned how to slow down my system, how to listen to my body,
right?
How to listen to my inner voice. But then afterwards there was all this mental which was still going on, because I had totally lost trust in my body.
Yes.
In my heart, because my heart was going crazy and heart palpitations and all this. And in my mind, I couldn't trust my mind anymore. Wow. So I had to start to rebuild all that trust. And that's when, when I heard about Amara, and I just knew it's these these things in life.
Yes, I do.
You just know you have to do that.
I do. And you also have that, oh shit moment of like, really, universe, you're going to make me do that?
And I was like, and I had this conversation with my family, and they wanted me to check into a clinic back in Switzerland. And I just knew if I start taking medication, this is going to throw my Lyme journey far back again, because I can't deal with toxins and
So
the
they
chemicals.
wanted you to check into a retreat in Switzerland to help you cope with the emotional side, or to still help you to heal from the Lyme?
It had the Lyme, then afterwards had triggered a lot of anxiety. I came to a place in my life.
You were in crisis.
Yeah, I was in crisis.
Yeah.
And my life was paralyzed by my fears. And
Yeah.
and there's another element coming into that, because in the middle of all this, I lost my mother. So I was very sick with Lyme. I lost my mother. And my mother was always very, very anxious. So that's where the ancestor things are coming in.
Yeah.
And I could always keep that away. I was always kind of trying to keep. I didn't allow her to put her fears on me. I could keep them in check. So I was basically putting them under the carpet.
Yeah.
And then when my mother passed away, it was like this wave hitting me. And, they're all yours now. And I had to deal with them. And so I was paralyzed by my fears.
Yeah.
I was canceling flights. I was supposed to join my husband in Hong Kong for a weekend. I turned around at the gate. I just, and I left my home totally convinced and looking forward to that weekend, that long weekend in Hong Kong. And I turned around at the gate.
Wow.
And there was a lot of things which just, actually, whatever I loved most, I got paralyzed about and I got afraid about. And it brought me to this really, really dark place. And I just knew in that moment again, I just knew I had to work with Amara. And I did sign up for this 6 days transformational retreat.
Where was she holding it?
In Bali. And I was
Okay.
living in Singapore.
Okay. So
And I had to
said,
wait. Can you imagine? I had to wait 6 months for
Wow.
that retreat.
Yeah.
So it was
a long time
It
to
was
live
like
in crisis.
May, April, and I was in total crisis.
Yeah.
And I had to wait until September. And
Had you left your job at this point?
no,
Gosh, you're trying to work.
I was still juggling everything. Yeah.
Wow.
I was still. And
Yeah.
I went for that retreat.
You almost didn't go, right?
I almost didn't go. Yes, you know that story, right? 2 days before, I was like, I texted her, I have all these fears coming up and I don't think I can come. And she was like, well, I think you're not ready. And I'm like, oh yes, I am very ready. You have no idea how ready I am. I've been waiting for this for 6 months.
Yeah.
That's long. And she said, okay, write me 2 pages, two A4 pages, why you want to come. And what are you going to do during the retreat to make it the most beneficial for yourself and the other participants?
Were those an easy 2 pages to write, or did you feel blocked?
No, they were easy to write.
Okay,
because I had all my,
you were there.
I'm going to come, right?
Yeah.
I had all that. So it brought me all back why I want to do it.
There
so
she is.
Perfect. Yeah. And she said, okay, see you Saturday. And I flew to Bali and it changed my life. These 6 days transformational retreat, literally, I was turning around of something I've been waiting for 6 months. And I had put a lot on hold. I was paralyzed in a lot of things. I was in this deep anxiety. And I came and it transformed myself, because it transformed myself on all the levels. And I resigned 3 months later.
Wow.
And a year later, I moved to Bali with my 2 children in the middle of the pandemic, when everyone felt like, you're crazy. Here in Singapore, you have all the health system. What are you going to do in Indonesia? They don't know how to deal with this pandemic. So seeing that from someone who was paralyzed by fear to moving to Bali alone with 2 children a year later in the pandemic.
What was driving that choice?
It was a big game changer. And one area was my husband was stuck in Hong Kong, so he couldn't come. So I was like, okay, I mean, you can't be here. I don't have to be in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
My thinking was I would like to give our children the opportunity to experience green school, which is an environment in the middle of the jungle,
Yeah.
which I felt every child should have the opportunity to experience once in their life. So my aim was 1 year, and I really wanted to learn from Amara. So that was my other goal with my move here, and I did. So it's been 3 years now, almost. Yeah, I mean, since then, 3 years, more than 3 years. I've been learning from her. I've been working with her. And
when you went on the retreat with Amara, the transformational retreat, were you still struggling with the symptoms of Lyme disease at that point?
I was, let's say, physical wise,
Yeah.
I was in a much better place.
Through the diet,
Through the diet,
exercise,
yoga.
Okay.
I mean, my first yoga lesson, I could only do private classes because standing on one leg made me shaking. So there was no way I could go into a group.
So there are little steps.
So there were little steps. So physically, I felt stronger. Not where I am today, but stronger. I was keeping my diet in check.
Okay.
So I know I need to have a clean diet.
But you were still aware that there was this untouched emotional component.
I was still I was in my deepest anxiety.
Right.
And I was in this really dark place, and I had experienced things which, were really dark. And also I was suddenly starting to feel things which
You didn't know how to feel?
I don't know how to feel. What's this? What's going on? I mean, what are these things?
And when you came to Bali and in the pandemic, you continued this work, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I did. It's become a daily practice for myself.
Yes.
And then I really learned how to bring this to other people. And I did InnerGuidance coaching training. I did InnerGuidance facilitating. I co-facilitated with Amara. Still part of my education, and I have done my first group and alone, and I'm bringing Amara back home in July to Switzerland. So I'm really
so excited about that.
I'm so grateful to be able to bring this work home. It means so much to me. It has given me so much. It has changed my life. It has helped me to overcome my fears. I mean, just to give another example, I'm sitting here in this podcast, right?
Yes.
When my mother passed away, it was not me who had to talk in the church about her. It was my husband. I was just not brave enough to stand up there and speak in front of people.
Do you regret that?
No, I don't, because I know I was not ready. It was not my time. And I always believe, and that also, I would like to mention that here, especially since we have been touching on children and parenting.
Yes.
I believe that also as mothers, we always do our best, whatever best, in the capacity we have at that moment.
Yes.
Right? So, and that comes back to what you mentioned earlier of,
I'd like to get through one of these without crying.
My kids are already over 3 or 7 years old, so are mine. But when we start to change our patterns, they can see the change in ourselves.
Yeah.
So my husband can see the change in myself,
and
he started to get curious, And my children, my daughter, my 14, almost 15-year-old daughter, who did in the first few years, she got a lot of my old self, when she was younger, and this kind of dominance and authority with which I was raising her at that time. And then Asia taught me there is other ways of doing things. I've seen that many years ago with the help I also had with my Filipina helpers, that there's another way of bringing up children than only with authority. and love, but with these strict rules, in a more conscious way. And that's that more conscious way which I've been following, and I've been doing ever since I'm aware of it. And I can see, and my daughter is sometimes jealous about her little brother, because she says, oh, I got all that shit, and he doesn't.
I mean, talk about mom guilt. But thank you for saying that, because I think that it's easy to get disheartened as a mother, and there's so much guilt about being a mom, the dialogue society has with mothers, what we expect of ourselves. And I guess the takeaway from this is that it's never too late to start or to change or to do something different. I mean, you could have adult children and want to have new discussions with them. You could have small children that it's never too late to change course. And sometimes we all are doing the best that we can do at the time we can't do any better than we know how to do.
Exactly.
And we're all trying.
And we're really all trying so hard to do our best, right?
Yeah.
So, I just want to
thank you for sharing that. I also love this. I very much like you. I have been learning so much when I moved to Bali about healing, and I'm still very much on this process, investigating, having conversations. And the reason that I wanted to do this podcast and why it was so important to me is that I was having conversations and understanding new ways of thinking and incorporating different tools into my own toolbox that I thought, God, I wish that I could share this with the people that I love and the people who might not have access to it in America, in the UK, the two places I'm from, or anywhere else in the world. And that I feel like I would be doing a great disservice if I allowed myself and my own fears and my own anxieties about being seen and showing up to stand in the way of surfacing this information out to other people that may find it useful. And it's hard too, because I did musical theater for years and I love dramatic arts and performing, but this is very different because this is dealing with core authentic truth, vulnerability, really what's on the inside. And I felt like I had to I want to be of help. I want to share these conversations with people. And if I could just not have that internal dialogue of self-doubt, imposter syndrome, what are other people going to think about me starting a podcast, that I'm so full of myself, all these things, and just do it because I want this information out there. And I think what you're doing is similar because you are hosting this retreat in Switzerland. Is it the same retreat that you went on that transformed your life?
It is.
And you're bringing it to Switzerland, to your home country?
Yes.
To take what you learned here back to that place and to the people of that country or anywhere in Europe that can come.
Yeah, I mean, this is just going to be a first step, right?
Wow.
For me, Switzerland. I definitely want to bring this across Europe, also with the languages I speak, with my German, French, Spanish.
Oh God!
So I can really,
you're talking.
I can really bring that out.
I'm monolinguistic, which is such a bummer.
But I really want to mention what you are doing as well. It's so important to have these people, who have courage and share their truth. And yes, as you said, it's showing vulnerability because. And vulnerability creates connection. So, because there's always someone out there who needs to hear what you are sharing. And
I hope so. Thank you.
And we are so privileged here in Bali that this is basically the center where all this healing is coming together and all the knowledge. And we have this privilege to just experience it all and learning it all. And then it's up to us to bring that out.
Yes.
To the world. And and when we just, if I'm coming back to InnerGuidance as well a bit, and you were talking about these stories we have in our mind, right? So it's really connecting. That's what we're doing. We're connecting to different part of ourselves. So we're connecting to the parts which are maybe judgmental. And then when is being judgmental, when has it been beneficial to us and when has it not? And then the same for example, insecurity. When has insecurity been beneficial for me and when has it held me back? You know, so it's in these kind of journeys we go, and we're really looking at ourselves and the stories in our mind, and these patterns and these stories have been created. And someone told me recently, you know, and that was really, it really helped me as well. Someone told me, you know, the brain is always looking for patterns. It's like when you learn to drive a car, right? It becomes automatic. So your brain is trying to look at patterns and making them automatic. That's just what the brain does. So all these patterns which we make out of an experience, and they might be limiting us. They might be based off some wrong beliefs because as a child, we didn't understand it properly.
Yes.
That was the capacity our brain had
Yes.
to understand that situation. And then that's the coping strategy which we have built. And then we carry this coping strategy throughout our whole life. And sometimes they're not really helpful.
No. And sometimes they're not even true. They're just things that we've put up, that we've built. I mean, one of the terms that I love that InnerGuidance use is conscious evolution.
Yeah.
And for me, and maybe this means different things to different people, but this is about consciously creating the life that you want and looking at those stories, honoring both the duality that is within of the insecure and the secure, which InnerGuidance does a lot of. Not dismissing one as good or bad, but allowing space for both to exist within us. And then picking the path that feels the most aligned consciously, and not just building decisions on stories that don't serve, or belief systems that don't serve, or dialogue that doesn't serve. Consciously picking the way that you want to walk. And that's hard.
And creating this new middle way, right? And
you find it inside.
And it's inside yourself. And once you start doing this, because the relationship with ourselves also reflects in our relationship with other people's.
Every relationship.
With
the planet, with other people.
Yes, exactly.
With our animals, with our home.
So once you start to work on yourself, and that's what it is, this inner work is all about, your outer relationships will be changing as well. And then it's the same in couples, right? Sometimes we work with couples. Then you have even two different coping strategies meeting each other.
Yes.
And then figuring out what do we want, what do we don't want, and then having your needs, what are my needs, what are his needs, how do we make sure that both our needs are met with the capacity we have. So this is then a totally other direction this work can go through, you know.
I always think that the universe will surface the things that you have to work through until you work through them. It will confront you in your relationships with yourself, with other people. They will confront you on all sides until you start to listen. You may be an illness that you get. It will find a way to tell you that there's something that you have to listen to, and then it's your job to listen.
And there's something you have to learn. And until you have not learned that lesson, they will just pop up in another form, you know. And then, oh, here we are again. Oh, I know this from somewhere. I just recently had that experience as well, about setting up a company. And we wanted to do it, the three of us. And at the beginning, there was this all excitement about it, you know. And okay, let's do it in this way. And we were all working in a similar field, and we felt like, yes, this is the way to do it. And then when we were started to talk about the name, it was the moment where I really started to get inside myself and tuning in. And then I realized, no, there's things which are not aligned. And then my intuition was telling me, no, this is not right.
Wow.
I have to do it by myself or not with these people. And then my mind came and tried to tell me all the stories why it would work and why I should do it.
Okay.
And I was just, no, I might not fully understand why now. My intuition is giving me a no, but it's a no. And I told the others. And of course, there was some, oh, okay, but thank you for telling us so early on the journey.
Yes.
Which is fair enough. You might have manifested into a different problem.
Yes.
But I just knew that from a previous job before, where I met that person, that CEO, the first time, and I was, oh gosh, no, that's not going to work.
But you did it anyway.
But I did it anyway, and I could see why why the head office wanted to hire me, because we were complementing each other very well, but on the personal level. And I just felt there was a lot which was up.
Yeah.
And I was convincing myself why I should do it. And
I love that.
1 year down the road, I had to be honest, and it didn't work. And I had to move away. And I wish
There's so many times in my life, and the pattern that I'm working hard to break and am much better at, thank you, is saying yes when I mean no. When my heart is saying no, I'm saying yes to please other people, to not cause a problem. And then what happens is I say yes to something that my heart has said no to, and it's a bigger problem. But I still do it again over and over, because there's some fear of that initial telling someone, that people-pleasing part of me that just, really wants it to be okay for me.
It really wants it to be okay.
Really wants it to be okay. Or muscling through it and, dealing with it after. So would you tell me, who is your retreat for? Who should be coming to the InnerGuidance retreat this July? What are the dates?
July in Switzerland. 3rd to 8th of July.
3rd to 8th of July.
Yeah, and we found this beautiful location up in the Swiss mountains.
And it's you with Amara?
It's Amara and myself. It's surrounded by mountains, by forests.
Okay.
We are 5-10 minutes walking distance to a mountain lake. And if you're asking me who should be coming,
yes,
whoever feels ready to be truly honest with themselves and working through some serious stuff. And oh, wow, that's what I've been doing. Now I understand. I don't want to do this anymore. Thank you, but no thank you. And I will find a new way forward. And so it needs a lot of courage. So Amara always says, I'm working with people who are ready and who have courage. I work a little bit with people who are curious, but because you need to be curious. It's an inner inquiry. So you need to be curious enough to look at yourself, whether right or wrong, but just to look at yourself, what you're actually doing.
And the profile of people that are drawn to this work are men, women, executives, parents. They're from all walks of life. I mean, I've gone to her group sessions, and it's so diverse. It's beautiful in that way, because it touches humans wherever they are. So anybody who's listening to this, watching this, that thinks, I don't know if that's for me, that decision's up to you. But this process invites anyone and all, regardless of your profile, your gender, how you identify. It is for anybody that wants to make changes in their lives and may not feel that they have the tools at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could be there.
Come.
I will eventually. So where does somebody find out? I will link all this information in the description of the podcast. But do you know the website?
Yeah, I mean, it's on Amara's website, so www.amarasamatha.com. It's on the InnerGuidance Institute's website. It's on the hotel's website, which is Schweizerhof in Flames. It's up there, but you can also always reach out to myself through Andrea Wieser 11@outlook.com. And Wieser is spelled with IESER.
I'll put that in as well.
Okay.
And you're also taking coaching as well?
I'm taking coaching. I do individual coaching. Yes,
Which
I do that on
online,
Zoom.
yeah.
Yes, or in person. And it's equally transformative on Zoom because it touches the emotions as well, and it's just a bit less embodiment. It's a bit less moving. But if you go for a good dance afterwards and you shake all these energies out, you're gonna be fine. But and as you beautifully said, I mean, we're working with entrepreneurs, CEOs, mothers, fathers, parents are very important.
Even some children now. Not this retreat is not for children yet, but even the youngest among us.
Yeah, and parents are parents of the children of our future. So very, very important. So everyone who feels called, just reach out. And we are planning a Zoom information call on the 3rd of June at 10 a.m. Swiss time, which is 4 a.m. Bali time.
So you're getting up early for that.
And 4 p.m. Bali, 10 a.m. Swiss. And it's going to be on Zoom, www.zoomwithamara.com.
Okay, great.
And we're going to give further explanation on the retreat and information and double check whether this is really for you or not.
Great. So if you're curious, you want to know more, no obligation. You can get on the Zoom call. You can ask the questions. You can just listen if you want to listen. You can just dip your toe in.
You can have your
pool.
picture. You don't have to have your picture on. You can keep yourself anonymous. No worries about that.
And you know what? I think that's beautiful because sometimes it's not the right time for you. But then you get it in your hand, or just being open to the possibility may open to you other possibilities. You never know. I have one last question for you.
Yes.
So we talked about InnerGuidance and kids and healing. What else outside of all of that is lighting you up right now? Is there any other modalities that you're interested in right now, that you're investigating, that you're working with, that you're curious about? Because I ask people this question because we're multifaceted beings, and we're not just one thing. You're not just a coach. You're not just working with InnerGuidance. And I love to invite my guests to share something else that they're curious and pursuing. So I wonder what that might be for you.
At the moment, my focus is very much on my children and getting my teenager as well through her teenage years. Her works she has there. She has a big project coming up for her graduation from middle school. My little boy, I'm taking a course as well at the moment with Eckhart Tolle on Teacher of Presence. So that really excites me.
Wow.
But it's in the same field, but that really, so you're asking me what's lighting me up.
That's amazing.
That's at the moment. I'm super excited, and it's very powerful to study with him. And it's just a 1 week retreat, but as I know, 1 week retreats can be very powerful.
I mean, transformation can happen.
And transformational, yes.
In a moment.
Super excited about that. And it's really bringing, what's lighting me up is really, there is help out there and bringing this help out there. And sometimes when I'm going back to certain areas or when I travel and I see how much people are caught in their daily lives and in their work, it really makes me sad. Because there's so much more to it. There's so much more to
Yeah.
life, and finding that balance. I'm really on this inner inquiry, finding a sustainable balance for myself between family, health, work, and yeah, that's my journey, the journey I'm on.
Well, that's a beautiful place to leave this. I don't think I could have done any better. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a real
pleasure.
pleasure.